I believe that we all have the ability to completely change our lives in an instant, to stop playing small, and that it only takes one moment to gain a resilient, no fucks to spare sense of purpose, confidence, and commitment that was not there the moment before. And today I'm going to share 3 mindset shifts that helped me gain the confidence that I needed to live an alternative lifestyle. Hello and welcome back to Hexotica, the sanctuary for creative witches and rebellious spirits ready to build an alternative life of freedom, magic, and money. I'm Christine Rice, your host, and let's begin the transformation. This is episode 5. Welcome back to Hexotica's podcast. Today, we're doing the 5th episode where I'm going to talk about some very personal stories that I'm going to share with you. But before we get started, I just want to recap some things that have been happening in my life, just for those of you who are following along in my journey, who might know a little bit about where I'm going and might be curious to know when they look back what happened. So I know that's something that I'm always curious with when I listen to podcasts. So I'm at that stage because I've just quit 9 years of social media management and I'm going all in on my own brand where I don't have a lot of evidence yet to show me that I'm going to be successful. This is an all new thing. It's not the same as going out and getting clients for done for you services, which is frankly a lot easier. Trying to do your own brand and your own coaching services, your own products, there are a lot of moving pieces to this kind of education lifestyle brand that I'm doing. And I want to celebrate every small win and every little piece of evidence that you can gather when you're in the struggling stage is worth celebrating. And for me, I've had 2 pieces of celebration evidence recently. The first was I had a viral thread that went to over 377,000 views on Threads, and it was about Alone Australia. I did a little TikTok and reel on it because it was just so funny because it really showed a highlight between American and Australian cultures and what people knew and what they knew about our animals here. It was quite hilarious for me. I described going viral as like when you're pushing a big boulder out of the way, because you're trying really hard to go viral, trying to get a piece of content to work for a long time, right? Like you're doing lots of content and nothing's really taking off. And then finally, this big boulder moves out of the way and all the little worms and insects start running out every direction. It becomes its own monster, its own thing. And you have no control about what is said, all the little infighting that happens in the comments of your viral post. It's really quite fascinating. And it really, really underscored what I'm going to talk about today, which is confidence. Because so often when we're starting business and we're doing marketing, we need to have really, really thick skin to be able to put ourselves out there and to be able to let things have a life of their own and people say what they're going to say. So that was the first piece of evidence. And then this past weekend, I went to Goldfields Gothic Festival in Malden, Victoria with a friend of mine. This is a fantastic little 3-day Gothic event in a little Australian rural town where the whole town gets up into goth mode and puts as gothy a window as they can, even if they're just selling like pottery or bed sheets. And the whole town is all dressed in black, all doing it was just fantastic. And I knew from what I know about doing Instagram Reels SEO, that if I made an Instagram Reel for Gothic Goldfields while people were still searching for it, that it was going to get good reach. And so I used SEO, and then I used a formula that I had learned from Mr. Beast on how to do Instagram Reels. I talk about this formula in my Facebook group if you want to go look it up. And I knew this piece of content was going to do well, but I didn't anticipate how well it was going to do. I had been struggling to get like 10 likes on a piece of content in Instagram. As most of you might know, it can be very difficult when you're reigniting an old account. And this piece of content, on the last check, it had 600 likes. It had gotten me over 35 new followers. And it basically has helped me feel like I am getting some momentum here. So this is just to encourage anyone out there who is doing content, doing their own business. Look for the evidence, keep trying, and make sure you celebrate every piece of evidence too, because you're not going to have a lot when you're in this struggle mode and you don't have a lot of evidence of success or any assurance or guarantee that it's going to come. So take what you can get. And I'm actually quite happy with that. So let's celebrate that today. All right. So today I'm going to talk about these 3 pivotal mindset shifts that I had from my personal experience that really helped me gain confidence to lead an alternative lifestyle. Because I believe that sometimes all it takes is one missing piece, one insight that will tip us over the edge into taking action. Because too many brilliant and unconventional women and neurospicy, gender diverse creatives out there are still waiting for permission to take up space. They're still taking themselves out of their dreams of an alternative, self-reliant as fuck lifestyle. And we don't need to be shrinking. You're shrinking to fit inside a conventional one that is going to slowly smother your creativity. So today I want to talk about why I believe that it only takes this one moment sometimes, one powerful personal insight to become a different person, and how you can gain this insight when you look within. Because I'm all about finding the wisdom and our strength to continue going and to become who we want to become from within. You don't have to have a 5-year plan to become successful sometimes. It only takes an amazing insight to have a very big quantum leap in your personal life ability. Because while I hate seeing anyone struggle to live life on their own terms, what really breaks me is watching wildly creative people with so much brilliance and so much to offer think that they can't have the life that they want. And not because they're afraid that they won't make enough money or that they don't have a plan, because those are legit concerns, but they're also totally solvable with a strategy. I'd almost say that they're easier to solve. The harder stuff is the mindset stuff. And people think that they can't live the life that they want because they haven't yet built the confidence to think bigger and to take up space. So today I want to fan the flame of your ambition and help you believe that you've got what it takes to play a much bigger game at a much bolder level. I'm going to share with you 3 personal insights that permanently changed the direction of my thinking and of my habits. And they helped me to stop playing small 3 different times. Because you can learn to stop shrinking. You can learn how to go after the life you want. No waiting for anyone's permission or worrying about what other people may think. This is learnable stuff. This is especially for you if you have a very big delusional level dream, like a big delusional level daydream, and you have that teeny seed of ambition to make it real, but your self-belief and your self-trust just haven't caught up yet. So maybe this will be the spark that you need, the micro enlightenment that helps flip your inner belief switch and helps you shift into that more self-reliant as fuck version of yourself that has the confidence to go after an alternative lifestyle dream. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to talk about personality traits and confidence. Because I believe that one of the worst things that we can believe about ourselves is that any of our behaviors are just personality traits that can never be changed. We say shit like, this is just how I am. And this is like personal growth gatekeeping, endorsed and reinforced by personality tests. Now, I love a good personality test. I love like Myers-Briggs and whatnot. I'm not disputing that they're helpful or even that they're accurate, okay? But I think they should all come with a warning label that none of the traits that you currently have are permanent. Because we all have the ability to change any of the traits about ourselves that we do not like. And I know this because I entirely changed what I thought was once my dominant personality trait, shyness. Up until I was 22, I had very low self-esteem and crippling shyness. Growing up, I had struggled with severe social anxiety. But by my sophomore year at the University of Georgia, I had finally broken through it. So I enjoyed a relative few years of social confidence, from graduation to my first few professional jobs working as an English teacher in Japan, Boston, and New York, until I landed in Melbourne in about 2001. That was the year I had to figure out what to do with my life again because I could not work in Australia without an English as a second language certificate. But the problem was, I no longer wanted to be a teacher. It just didn't fulfill me creatively, and I craved more daily novelty, as you do when you have ADHD. I learned later. So I dreamed of starting my own business selling my handmade costume jewelry. I was always making jewelry from the time I was like in third grade. So I got a full-time job at a wholesale jewelry company to start learning more about the costume jewelry industry. They had like a small retail storefront where they invited me to sell my own designs, which was really cool. One weekend, after about 9 months of working there, I went to a party. And I was in the middle of a group of people talking when someone turned their attention to me, and I experienced a complete freeze like I had not in years. Once again, I did not know what the fuck to say. I think I mumbled something stupid. I mean, I was feeling absolutely mortified at myself. I never expected my shyness would ever return like that after all those years that I had struggled to overcome it. But to my abject horror, it had returned full force, obviously. And I couldn't see it back then, but looking back, I now understand why. I mean, I was working full time in a foreign country, far away from my friends and my family, and it had taken a toll on my confidence. I felt isolated and alone again, having left my entire social network behind in Atlanta, not to mention that I also was not using my degree and I was trying to start something completely new. So I realized for the first time that my social confidence was never going to be like a completed project, that it was a muscle. And it's something that I had to work on to keep, something that could grow or weaken depending on how I used it. But the deeper revelation came after that because many of us might have heard, oh, confidence is a muscle. Okay, no huge insight in that. But the deeper revelation that I had at this time was that if confidence could rise and fall based on what was happening in my life, then it was malleable. It wasn't fixed. It was buildable. And that meant I could engineer however much I wanted of it. And not just enough confidence to get by, but massive, unreasonable, delusional level confidence. The kind of confidence that could carry me through risk and self-reinvention. And I realized I could create limitless confidence, a version of it that was far bigger, bolder, and more grounded than anything I had ever known. And that the only real limit to my confidence would always be self-imposed, my own mental blocks. So that meant having confidence was a choice. Confidence isn't something we have and then we feel confident. We can simply choose to be confident. That revelation blew my mind. It helped me make some really, really bold life choices from then on. So I started my jewelry business. I surrounded myself with creative people that I found really interesting and fun. I traveled across Southeast Asia for 3 months on my own at the age of 27. And of course, there's a difference between knowing something is possible and realizing that potential, right? Like gaining confidence was still going to be a lot of work, just like going out to a gym. Like I wasn't automatically just going to show up and be confident at a party just because I had that realization, right? But realizing that a personality trait that I'd previously thought was unchangeable was merely a choice was incredibly empowering. So my question for you is, what personality traits do you have that you'd just rather not? Have you convinced yourself that it's just who you are? And what if it wasn't at all who you are, but it was just a habit? A way of thinking that you've never thought to challenge? What if you could choose to replace a personality trait that you don't like about yourself with something that you'd like to have. Confidence is accessible to anyone who wants to have it. That's the underlying thing here. If you want to have confidence, go after it and get it. There's no certification, there's no test or permission required. So stop playing small and become the most confident person you know. I can't remember who said that, but that's always stuck in my mind. It might have been maybe Tony Robbins. Become the most confident person you know, the most confident person in the room. Not arrogant, just confident. Just you like yourself. You trust in yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to be yourself. That kind of confidence. So here's another moment of clarity that profoundly changed my outlook on life in an instant. This one came at quite possibly the darkest time in my life, too. It was in 2016 when I was 40 years old, living in my own 2-bedroom apartment in Melbourne's western suburbs. I had just been laid off from my full-time job at a laser cutting company. It had been a fantastic job, too. It was like the first where I had used both my skills in e-commerce and in social media management. And the layoff didn't bother me too much because I was pretty keen to get back into my own side hustle, which was my accessories business at the time. But the issue was my realization that I no longer wanted to continue this side hustle in accessories business. I wanted a different business. This accessory business, it didn't fit in with my love for travel, or my long-held dream of being a pet-sitting digital nomad. So on top of these two massive upheavals, losing my job and realizing that I needed to close my business because it had not been supporting me properly, was that I was still going through a massive breakup. I'm still nursing a broken heart after yet another failed relationship because I had had a lot of relationships at this time. So it was a pretty gloomy as fuck period for me. There were days where I would just spend it staring out the window, watching these little brown thrushes and black miner birds just sitting in this big red velvet chair that I have. And it was a crazy period of job searching and soul searching. One huge insight I had was discovering that I had an avoidant attachment issue, which explained all the short relationships. That was really confronting. And I'm not proud to say that I did a lot of heavy drinking with bouts of yoga and meditation because, those two totally go together, right? And then one day I discovered on YouTube a spiritual guru named Gabby Bernstein. And I devoured hours and hours and hours of her content. She was like the best thing that I could have come across at that time. And this is back when she was just filming from her couch, well before she became famous for manifesting being invited on Oprah's Soul Sunday. So something that she said that would change my life forever in a single moment was, to paraphrase because I can't remember the exact statement, was, there are fewer people stepping up to help others than there are people in need. And I don't know why, but this felt like a calling to me. I remember screaming, yes, 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 and dancing all around my apartment. This revelation, it hit me hard. She said that while there are many people who are struggling and in need of support, there were not enough people rising up to offer the help that all those people needed. There was like this big gap between need and leadership as a helping service. This profoundly changed how I saw my place in life. It was like a moment where I realized that no matter how wretched we may feel, we could be of service to others who are either feeling as shit or even worse than we were. So once again, I realized something that I had thought was set in stone, which was my unfortunate situation, was also a choice. The roles we choose in life don't have to be small. They can be big. I could just choose to continue wallowing in my own misery, or I could choose to not only lead myself out of it, but lead others as well. So this is true leadership, which I believe is the highest form of self-love. And that's why I found it so healing. It helped me begin trusting my own inner wisdom. This gave me the courage to completely close that side hustle accessories business that I'd been building for 8 years. And that was a massive move for me. It was like killing my baby. And then I bought a course, like an online course, to become a social media manager, and I became self employed within 4 months. And finally, within a year, I became a pet sitting digital nomad and had all my stuff in storage. So I have not had a job since then. That was 9 years ago now. So another question for you is, where in your life can you step up as a leader? Because when you stop playing small for yourself, you stop playing small for the entire world around you as well. You give yourself permission to take up space and you begin to lead. So just remember, there are far more people in need of help and support than there are people willing to offer that help and support. Stop playing small for them, and you'll uncover the unlimited joy of being in service. Self-leadership is truly the highest form of self-love. Now, here's my final personal example where a single moment of clarity and insight can completely change who you are. A lot of people are too afraid to start their own business or work for themselves because they worry that they lack self-discipline, right? And they may also believe that too much self-discipline is like a cage, a rigid, stifling way to live. I used to believe both ideas myself. And then a few years into working for myself, I came across this quote by the philosopher and theologian Mortimer J. Adler. Quote, "True freedom is impossible without a mind made free by discipline." This really blew my mind. I realized that my concept of self-discipline was ass backwards. Up until that moment, I had poo-pooed the concept of time blocking as annoying and impossible for someone as flaky as me to follow anyway, right? And those first few years of being a freelance social media manager had been fucking messy. A lot of late mornings sleeping in, late nights working on weekends. I used to bring my laptop everywhere, and the work was just like all over the shop. But everything changed after I heard this one concept. Because I'd started the business for freedom. Freedom was my main thing that I said that I wanted. And yet here I was behaving in a way that was limiting my freedom. So I started learning from productivity coaches who taught that the one way to create more freedom in our day-to-day lives was to have more self-discipline. And around year 3, I finally got serious about time blocking. And I was able to start taking every weekend off again, like normal people. And since then, I've learned how to gamify my days to suit my ADHD brain, because I realized that gamification is extremely motivating for someone like me. It's like my secret productivity weapon now. It makes time blocking fun rather than something that was boring, which is how I used to see it. So self-discipline creates freedom. And it can also help us achieve anything we set our minds to by making the success inevitable as a result of our habits. So when all our intentional habits become easy and natural, it makes self-discipline become easy and natural. And I wish I had known this when I was younger. But even if I had, I'm not sure if it would have even stuck, right? Like sometimes clarity just comes at the right time when we're ready for it. One of my favorite books on this is Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you have not read this book, you need to read it. It's amazing. In this book, he says, quote, "The best way to change your entire life is by not changing your entire life. Instead, it is best to focus on one specific habit. Work on it until you master it and make it an automatic part of your daily life. Then repeat the process for the next habit." That's the easiest, fastest way to mind-blowing self-discipline that even the laziest, least motivated person can follow. You start with small, incremental improvements to your habits if you want to build your self-discipline and ultimately your freedom. It's never too late to start playing small and start playing big. So if you're still coming up to your own self-imposed limitations in life, keep learning. You never know what single statement could blow your whole sense of being up and change how you live in just a few seconds. You never know what aha moment awaits you. It may be from your own experiences, from a YouTube guru, or from a book. The common denominator is self-reflection. All the answers to life and what you desire are already within you. All you need to do is allow yourself to reflect and take action on what feels right and what inspires you, because that could be your calling in life. So if you're ready to create a self-reliant as fuck badass alternative lifestyle, I have something special for you. If gaining more confidence to stop playing small and go after what you want in life is your jam, there's nothing better than getting inspired by confident, badass women who did amazing shit throughout history. I love hearing the stories of badasses so much that I have an entire themed newsletter just focused on them. It's called Badass Women Don't Give a Fuck. And it's a sequence of 10 emails, each covering one badass woman from her story. We break down what makes her a badass and what we can learn from her. So season 1 is already out now, and you can sign up for it by clicking the link that I'll leave in the show notes of this podcast or YouTube video, however you're consuming this. So sign up for Badass Women Don't Give a Fuck and fuel your fire with the women who've done it before you. So stop shrinking, stop playing small. You and the whole world need the boldest, baddest version of yourself right now, in this moment. Not later, right now. I hope this has given you clarity. Thank you so much for listening, and join me next week where we're going to go into a little bit more details about time management. Because I know this can be something that Neurospicy creatives really struggle with, and I have a lot to share on it that I hope you'll find helpful. We're going to go into a little bit more on how I gamify my day and how I gamify time to make it not only fun to time block, but also something that gives me extreme productivity and self-discipline in ways that just I would never have had before. So tune in for next week, and thank you for listening again. Bye.